Alright, so video 2. Last video we covered the basics. We talked to you about axes and how to draw shapes. In this video we're going to talk about how to create objects by grouping them together or making components, and I'll show you the difference. And we're going to talk about how to extrude those shapes into 3D solids and begin to put those things together. So here we go. One of the problems that I showed you in the last video was that when you get this selection tool and I double click this and I move it, if I overlap it like this, all of a sudden my shapes are actually meshed together, kind of like taking two pieces of cookie dough and smashing the cookies together. If I want to move that circle anymore, I can't. If I hit move, it's going to do this weird stretch thing to my objects. And so the way Sketchup gets around that is it creates groups or components. So I'm going to hit Control Z and it's going Command Z, and it's going to undo that. I'm also going to do it one more time to move my circle back. So just Command Z is undo. It's a faster way than going up here to edit, undo. And so what it does is I'm going to show you how to create a group. So you're going to double click this shape to get it selected, and you'll notice that the actual face of this shape gets a little blue dot pattern on it, and then all the edges go a darker blue. After you do that, you're going to right click and you're going to come down here to make group, and it's going to put a bounding box around it. So now I can take this shape and click it once, and it's actually selected that group of objects, and I'm going to move it over this thing. But you'll notice that when I deselect it, I still have a solid black line here, solid black lines all around, and when I select it, it doesn't select any of the square. That's because it's grouped. Okay? So at this point, I'm going to if you wanted to edit this shape, you could double click it, okay? And you could select those faces, you could select a line, you could get the eraser tool and erase part of it out if you wanted to, and it would erase pieces or the entire shape depending on what you select. Okay, so that is how you make a group. Now the interesting thing about a group, let me just make a copy of this. I haven't told you about copying things yet, but if you get the move tool and you click one time, just click it and drag in a direction and then hit the option key on the keyboard, it will make a duplicate. Okay, it's a fast way to copy a shape. And I'm going to copy this group shape and put it over here. Now, I'm going to double click on this first shape I made, and I want to make it 3D. So I'm going to double click inside of it. You'll notice everything else, when you double click inside of a group, everything else around it goes kind of into a haloed, faded look. You can't edit any of these outside shapes right now. The only shape that you can edit is the shape that's inside that group. So I'm going to click that circle and we're going to turn it into a cylinder. I'm going to extrude it up 2 feet. Okay, so I type 2 and then I click the foot tick mark, which is over by your return key, and hit enter. I now have a cylindrical solid. Okay, and I'm going to orbit or revolve around that shape, and I can see how tall it is. That's about 2 feet. If this man is 6 feet, that's about 2 feet high. So I know that my scale is correct. Alright, so I've got this shape, which it's got this bounding box around it, which means that it's a group. Okay, when I click over here, these are not grouped yet. I can select individual faces, I can select individual edges or lines. Those are not groups. This is a group. Okay, so but you'll notice that whenever I extruded this up, nothing else happened to any other shapes. So I told you we were going to make shapes and components are going to save you a ton of time in this project, especially if you have a lot of repeating shapes that are exactly the same. So examples of that would be if you were creating something on your space station, like an array of solar panels, and all those solar panels were going to be exactly the same, but you only wanted to draw them one time, you would want to make a component out of it. So let's say that this is going to be my solar panel. I'm going to double click on that one, and I'm going to right click and let's just go ahead and make a component out of it. Okay, I'm going to call this solar panel. Okay, and it does the same thing. It makes it a group just like it would, just like it did over here. But the difference between a component and a group is this. I'm going to move it, so I'm going to click once, drag over. I'm going to move it in my x-axis here, and I'm going to hit the Option key to make a copy. And I want to move it over. I think we made this one 3 feet wide, so I want there to be a 6-foot gap in between these. So I'm going to move it 3 foot 6 inches. So you'll notice it says 3 with a single tick for feet, and then 6 with a double tick for inches, and hit return. Okay, and now if I double check my measurement, you'll see that I've got a 6-inch gap in there. Okay, I just remembered when we made this that we made it 3 feet wide. So component. The cool thing about components is this. I'm going to double click and edit inside this one. See how everything else went shaded out? And I'm going to draw a line in here at the midpoint to the midpoint. And you'll notice that these lines are showing up on this piece over here. That's because it's a component. Alright, so I'm going to draw a line here. I'm going to draw a line here. Okay, and it's actually creating multiples without having to draw them. So I've just created a flat panel. There's actually no thickness to this, which probably isn't true of a solar panel. You probably wanted to extrude it first. So if I click Command Z on all those lines and I come in here and I were to extrude it, let's say we were going to give it some thickness, give it 6 inches of thickness. Okay, and then I might want to draw my lines on the top of this. Let's offset it first. We haven't talked about the offset tool yet. So click the offset tool, and I'm going to drag in. I don't have anything clicking right now. I'm not holding the buttons. I'm just dragging my mouse. I just clicked once to activate the tool. And I'm going to click in just a little bit. Let's say I want there to be a 2-inch border. So there's 2 inches, and hit return. It made a little 2-inch border in there. Okay, and maybe I want to push this down a little bit. So I want to push it down so it sinks down just a bit. How about 1 inch? Okay, oh, zoomed way in there. And now I've got this this solar panel showing up. Okay, and I could go back in and draw the lines in there, but I'm not going to take the time at the moment to do that. But what a component does is this. It makes an exact duplicate. So let's say we copy this along, we get the selection tool, we get the move tool, and I'm going to copy it this time from this edge, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to click and then drag and hit the Option key. And since I made that my base point of movement, whenever I come over here, I'm going to click that object. Okay, and then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to click right there and hit the Option key and click right there, and all of these are being spaced out the same. So I edited this component last time. I could just as easily double click on this component, draw a line, and I could draw a line from, let's just do the offset tool again. Let's offset this in like that, and then let's extrude it up. I don't know what we're making now. It's not a solar panel anymore, but it's some kind of an array of objects, right? And I'm going to pull it up 3 feet. Okay, so very quickly I've created this array of something. I don't know what they are. Okay, and I'm going to orbit around them just to kind of look and see that they look kind of cool. All right, and these are my objects. So they're all componented together. Now, if I wanted to be able to move them together, I could click all of them. I could right-click and make a group out of those, and then they would all move together, so that if I wanted to move them from one place to another, I could. Move these guys around, or if I wanted to move it from this endpoint and put it up here on top of this object, I could do that. Zoom in a little bit and put it on that object, move it over to the center, and I've got this thing stacked now on top of my cylinder. shape. And so this is how you're going to start to assemble your pieces as you do it. So you may want to, as you begin to make those pieces, when you make that component, it's really important that you label them correctly. So if this was going to be, let's make a bigger square, rectangle, and let's make it go that way. All right, and let's make it 10 feet, comma 10 feet, and hit return. I'm going to zoom out. Maybe that's going to be my dining room, my dining hall, or something, my fuel cell, whatever. I'm going to right click on this one. You probably don't have more than one dining room, so I would probably just make it a group, not a component. But you can make it a group, okay, and group that and do what you will with it. On components, those repeating patterns, you probably want to make sure you name them appropriately. So when I named this one, you remember I named it solar panel, and that I think covers groups and components. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to dimension some of these things and talk about layers, and I will do that in the next video.